It is day 81 of 365 days of remembering. I am out walking in nature, vibing up, Trina right here. And today I'm going to talk about some things that are kind of basic to being a spiritually conscious being. So let's call it back to basics. There's no time like the present to do this because we are all being called to come more deeply inwardly, as I've been talking about in other videos. I live in the state of California, so we've just had this shelter-in-place order. And one of the first things I want to say is that it is so imperative and so important that we take ownership of the one thing we have control over, which is how I feel, how I am going to be with the conditions that arise outside of me, how I'm going to remember that they are circumstances outside of me, that circumstances are not the thing that determines how I feel, how I act, how I be. It doesn't determine how much fear I feel. It doesn't determine how much safety I feel. It doesn't even determine how aligned I am, because I get to determine that. And by choosing to make a circumstance more important than your choosing, than your consciousness, means that you, in essence, gave your power away, because that's the only power that is truly ours to have. So in this time of being called inward, called home to ourselves, to our true home, as I like to call it, not just our physical houses where we live and our physical families, but our true space of homeness, our true home, our true clarity, our true beingness. That's what's calling us. So we've been given this. How cool. So from that place, it's time to be conscious about all the things that we are being invited to with that. And that's what I was talking about with deciding how I'm going to feel in any given moment. And then take it a step further and say, so now I'm going to decide from where I stand, because there is, contrast when we see circumstances or conditions that we think, that's not exactly what I would choose. That's the data that we then take in to ourselves, remembering that we're the creator of all of it, so that we can fine tune it, so that we can dance and play in it and be the deliberate creator that we came to be. So to deliberately choose to rework it, and to remember that no desire can go further than our beliefs will allow. No reflection can go differently than our beliefs will allow. No circumstance, no condition, no nothing can show up outside of us that is different than what we can allow at the time and what our beliefs will allow. So beliefs clearly are pretty powerful, and so many people walk around the world not even aware of them. And we're now in a space where we're being called to look at some of those beliefs, some of the deeper seated beliefs that just operate our life, because if we don't take charge of them, they will just keep running the show. And it's interesting to think that there's so many beliefs that we're not aware we have that cause and determine such a vast amount of our moment-to-moment experience. And these stuff that's going on around us is always, no matter what it is, calling us to deepen our understanding of our beliefs and to take the time to be present with those beliefs, to sit with them, to see what they have to show us. Because if you are not getting every desire that you want out loud in the circumstances of your life, then the reflection right then and there is saying to you, look, there's a belief that is standing between you and that desire. And I do, as I've said in other videos, I absolutely have a belief that goes like this. If you were to be able to be in alignment almost all the time, like as much as possible, be in alignment, be alignment. Have that be your constant state of being. Then it would probably, because alignment trumps everything, be strong enough to pull all those desires to you anyway. And that's sort of an interesting thing, because we've often approached it as getting ourselves lined up with the desire instead of just the alignment. So I'm advocating both. I mean, it depends on where you're at and what ease you have in things, but to just take the time to notice when something isn't going the way that you think it should go. What are the beliefs you have? So I started to notice, to just riff on the last video that I did about looking at things through the 3D, the 4D, the 5D, and I'll include it in suggested videos at the end of this one, so you can check that one out if you want, is that if we line up with something we believe, then it reinforces the belief. And not only does it reinforce the belief, we are creating even something as simple as the game board or the illusion that we're existing in. The container that's holding this experience is also being created by my beliefs. That's a profound one. So I have some beliefs about parts of the illusion. Like I have a belief that it's an illusion, that it's a reflection, that it's me taking my consciousness and playing it out loud. It's giving me data so that I can fine tune and figure out how I really want to be a creator, that it's only serving me to see what is working and what's not, so to speak, so that I can get better and better at being creating. That this whole outer experience does not exist just for me to, it doesn't exist apart from me, and it doesn't exist as a thing for me to then go engage in. It does in the sense that my reflection calls me to engage with it to some degree so that I can then take the leap that I want to take the leap from. But so as you see, every belief we have about everything creates the everything. You can't get away from that. And it's really, really hard for our tiny human minds or brains to contemplate this. It's really hard for us to come to the understanding that everything, literally everything, we create through our beliefs. So I invite you to consider that, like even as far as down to like, why are we here? What is this all about? What are we doing? If you believe it's an illusion in a game, which if you're on the path of self-realization, I'm guessing you do. What is the game for? How do you fit into the game? Like, it's funny. I mean, I have some of those beliefs, and I try my best not to choose a construct and stick with it, like to have there never be a full conclusion, as Bentino Massaro says, because everything is equally valid and true. Everything is constantly my creation. Everything is flowing. Nothing's not more better than the other, except, of course, that adage that if it feels good and it feels in resonance with your full beingness, then it means it's in line with that truth. And if it doesn't feel good and it's not, then that means it's not in line with that truth. It's a very, seeming to me, profound realization that I had, because I guess I'd never really taken it quite as far as this. Like, it's one thing to say, yeah, I create my own reality, those trees are green, because I have a belief, like we all do, that trees are green. They could probably show up purple if I could have that belief, but I don't believe that trees come in purple, so I said my mind, brain, and vibration substitute green. I get that. Or, you know, the weather, or whatever all those things are, and there's just a million gazillions of them. Every nanosecond we're creating our reality. But then when I start to think about the creation of the whole universe, the creation of this beyond the universe, sort of this illusion that we all as a soul, like from a soul level, even the beliefs that I have about my soul are in essence creating my own experience of my soul. And to have a recognition that we can't actually have an independent experience of anything. Like, you can't take your beliefs out of it. So I know my husband trades the stock market, and it's a funny thing. He's in a program that talks about mindset, and it says you don't trade the stock market, you trade your beliefs. And I was starting to think, you don't eat food, you don't go on a diet, you don't try to change your mindset about food. It's not about the food you eat, it's about the beliefs you have about the food you eat, and how your body works and how your body processes food and all of those kind of things. And it's amazing to think that some shifts of that, like somebody that has a really high metabolism, what they have over somebody that doesn't is simply that they've had a lifetime of seeing that played out loud for them as a condition outside of themselves, a circumstance, to watch that their body doesn't gain weight based on the amount of food. So that's a really awesome one for them to come up with. But someone else that has a different belief that, like, oh, my family has a bad metabolism, or I have a slow metabolism, and I'm simplifying this because it's way, way more than that. There's many more nuances involved. But for the simplicity's sake, you could see how that is. Then it's not about the food they eat. It's about the beliefs not only they have about the specific food, but the beliefs about how their body processes the food. And so if we don't start to think about that, then we're missing part of the point. So how does your body respond to health? What are your beliefs about well-being and health? And now I have a belief that I never get sick, and so guess what? I never get sick. It's been like 10 years since I've had any kind of flu, any kind of cold. I mean, I think I had a tiny little bit just last Thanksgiving after my parents went home, which I know was resistance, because all health-related stuff is based on resistance. So I had that, and I was able to connect the dots. But interesting, again, we will live into the beliefs that we have about how our body functions, how our body interacts with the world around it. We'll do the same thing with money, because money can only show up as the way that we expect it. Our beliefs determine our money. It's not just your desire, it's the beliefs that are there between you and your desire, so to speak, and how you're rolling with those. Relationships, children, the stock market, politics, on and on and on. I mean, even the stuff that's going on today, which is a little bit, different, let's just say that, all of that is being filtered through our beliefs. So beliefs are really powerful, and I think it's helpful to have awareness about that, to just recognize it and go, you know what, that's true. If things aren't going exactly the way I want, whether it's in my career or in my relationship as a parent, with my body, in terms of health, or how much my body weighs and what it looks like. All of those things are constantly being projected. It's almost like there's a giant projection machine called beliefs, and everything that you could ever want is being projected through that projection booth. And what's really interesting is people spend a lot of time trying to fine tune and change the filter that's on the projection booth. And that's really an awesome way to do it. That is a great place to like go right to the belief, see what it is, and then let's change it so we can get it going through a different filter. But what if we just cleaned the filter out? We didn't even have it there anymore. And how do we do that? We do that through the power of not only alignment, it's more than that. It's really being in the space of identifying who I really am and standing so fully in it, like standing in that place of that's who I am. And there is no other place. That's just it. There's no doubt. I'm doubtless in it. I know that I am a being of infinite love and light. I know that infinite possibilities exist for me. I know that I'm invincible. I know that I'm unending. I know that I'm powerful, that I'm worthy beyond measure, that I have the power that creates worlds at my beck and call. Like if you stood in that space, then the projector becomes irrelevant. Whatever you don't need to project it through beliefs. You can just manifest it through. There still has to be some thought and belief. I guess that's true because that's part of what brings it into the physical. But it's so fast and it's going to be so quick. And if that's the one belief that you decided, because I just in this moment had a realization, funny, that even is a belief, that I have a belief that that's who I am, that I have a belief that that's who I want to reach to be, which is still just a belief. So I choose in every moment, if I could choose, and that's what I'm working on choosing, to see myself as infinite, to know that I'm a being of love and light, to know that I'm untouchable and unending, that I'm a character having this experience. And therefore that trumps everything. That one belief could trump all the other beliefs. If I could amp it up and get strong enough in it, then it will trump all the other beliefs. And then I'm filtering every desire through that belief, which says any possibility you can imagine you can have. The universe will line everything up for you the minute that you ask. All you have to do is move in the direction, follow the nudges, have fun with it, enjoy it, play. There's nothing you can't be, do, or have. Like if you lined up with that, that becomes the filter. So I sort of did a little funny thing there, which is that I went from a place of thinking we didn't need the projector at all to realizing that the projector is the tool for which we take things from vibration to physical. What a cool analogy. And the filter is important, but let's make it the best filter ever. Be conscious that it's still a belief, but use your beliefs to your advantage. So I'm going to leave you with that. It's cool because this video demonstrates perfectly how I flow and how I come to more and more deeper understandings about how the universe works and how we do what we do and how we get to where we think we want to be, how we're evolving and how we're becoming and how we be spiritually conscious beings. I gave an example of that as I was working it out in this flow that took me to a new place that I'd never been before. And so I encourage you to do that. If you enjoyed this video, then I invite you to like it. If you like the way I do this flow thing, how I share my rememberings and my realizations right in as close to real time as I possibly can, then subscribe to my channel, click the bell so you can get a notification about when I'm flowing another moment, and stay vibing up because this is a time to practice those skills, to practice our vibing up. See you later. Bye.